I'm going to break down truthfully who deserves the NFL MVP award. Let's get into it. This MVP race is actually so tough because literally all three of these guys just had sensational seasons. Like, I was going into it, I was trying to see like their major weaknesses or any weaknesses. Like, none of them had any. Let's start with Joe Burrow. Among the three candidates for the MVP race, Joe Burrow led them with passing yards and passing touchdowns. This guy had an insane season. It felt like he was carrying the Bengals literally every week of the season. I mean, their team was just doing everything they could do to make it difficult for Joe Burrow to win a game. Yet, they still ended the season with a 5-game winning streak and in 9-8, just barely missing out on the playoffs. What's a huge thing that's holding Joe Burrow back from winning the MVP? Of course, it's his team's success. His team missed out in the playoffs, and an MVP not even making it to the playoffs, that's pretty much unheard of. Now, was it Joe Burrow's fault that his team didn't make the playoffs? A lot would say no, including me. It wasn't his fault at all, but unfortunately, this is still something that matters in an MVP race, even if it's not the player's fault. Before ending the season on a 5-game winning streak, this was the Bengals' final 3 losses of the season. They failed a 2-point conversion attempt against the Ravens. This would have probably won them the game. They lost to the LA Chargers because McPherson missed 2 critical kicks in the fourth quarter of that game. And they lost to the Steelers because their defense gave up 44 points. Wait, I just want to take a step back here. Do you understand how bad your defense has to be to allow 44 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? Anyway, moving on. They lost to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 5 because they missed a game-winning field goal in overtime. They lost to the Commanders because their defense literally did not get 1 stop in the entire game, and they still only lost by 5. Also in Week 2, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs due to a questionable call. Listen, I'm not an official. I'm not a referee. I don't know. I'm just saying it could have gone either way, and it was a huge call in the game that, gave the Chiefs the win in the end. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Literally every game that the Bengals defense even played decent in, the Bengals won. Aside from Week 1, every game. I'm going to be completely real. Joe Burrow, he had an MVP caliber season. He did. I think we all know that. But unfortunately, his team just really held him back. It's that simple. Unfortunately for him, it's that simple. And I'm still going to heavily consider him at the end of this video, but it's going to be tough to overcome that. Next, I'm going to talk about Josh Allen. Now, if you're just looking at the stats, Josh Allen probably has the least impressive stats of the 3 candidates. But I will say he does have 12 rushing touchdowns, which is easily the most of the 3. His team does have the best record out of the 3 candidates, and he has some of the more impressive wins. His team was one team to knock off the Chiefs when they were starting Patrick Mahomes, and they also were one of the teams to beat the Detroit Lions this year. Josh Allen has led one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Bills' offense is averaging 2.97 points per drive, which compared to the Ravens is 2.82 points per drive. But with Josh Allen, I think the argument is a lot different with him. If you think Josh Allen should be the MVP, you're probably the type of person that thinks stats shouldn't tell the complete story and it should be more than that. And I agree with you. It is more than stats for sure. You look at Josh Allen this season, his top touchdown receiver was Mac Hollins. The Bills offense lost some really key players from last season, and everyone was thinking, oh, this offense is going to take a huge step back. But they didn't. In fact, all they did was take some steps forward. They're the top scoring offense in the entire AFC, which is insane because it's like, how? Well, the answer is Josh Allen. That's literally how. Josh Allen has literally made this Bills offense elite by just being himself. That's literally it. You look at this Bills offense, it doesn't look good at all, except it has Josh Allen. That's why the Josh Allen MVP case is so interesting to me, because it's like, if you just go off of stats, Burrow and Lamar Jackson have him beat. But if you just kind of watch football and you go off the eye test, you're like, well, Josh Allen's pretty amazing. And one thing Josh Allen really has going against him is he did play Lamar Jackson head-to-head earlier this season, and his team got completely smoked. And Josh Allen didn't really have the best game either. But Derrick Henry did rush for 200 yards that game, so is that really a Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen thing or a Bills versus Ravens thing? Also, I will say Josh Allen probably does have some of the best highlights of the candidates. I mean, he made some insane throws this year. Oh, and let's not forget that Josh Allen leads the MVP candidates in receiving touchdowns with 1. Pretty impressive. Josh Allen's case for winning the MVP is simple. He's done a lot more with less. You look at the other candidates, you look at Joe Burrow, he has a top wide receiver in the NFL, and his number 2 wide receiver, T. Higgins, is also pretty good. You look at Lamar Jackson, he's got a top running back behind him. He's got Zay Flowers, a Pro Bowl wide receiver 1, good offensive line, great head coach. Josh Allen did a lot more with a lot less. All right, last but not least, let's move on to Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to lie, Lamar Jackson's going to be pretty tough to beat. He leads all candidates in touchdown to turnover ratio. He leads all candidates in quarterback rating. He has the least amount of interceptions and the most rushing yards. Lamar Jackson won a pretty tough division. He swept Joe Burrow and the Bengals. He destroyed Josh Allen and the Bills head-to-head. Lamar Jackson literally has it all. He has it all. And you can even look at the offense. Derrick Henry, someone who really struggled on the Titans last season, he's been one of the best running backs in the league on this offense. Lamar Jackson literally makes his teammates around him better. He went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs in week 1, literally. And him and the Ravens are just all around dominating this season. You know, my last video, if you haven't watched it, check it out. I literally just went over how good the Ravens have been and how good Lamar Jackson has been. Lamar Jackson is going to be very, very tough to beat in this race. Now, what is the main argument that is going against Lamar Jackson? It's simply that the Ravens are probably just the best team of the 3. If you took Lamar Jackson off the Ravens and you put a mediocre quarterback in there, the Ravens would still probably have a chance at making the playoffs. I don't think the same could be said about the Bengals or the Bills. And I think that's the biggest reason why Lamar Jackson isn't the clear-cut favorite, is because the Ravens are just a really good team and they have a really good scheme and it just works. And hey, Lamar Jackson, he takes advantage of it. He does a great job. Is that a reason for him not to win it? Also, something else that's holding Lamar Jackson back, whether you like it or not, is the fact that he won the award last season and they kind of choked in the playoffs. I understand what happened last season shouldn't matter at all for this season's award, but let's be honest, it does. It does, but that shouldn't affect who truly deserves it. All right, I think I'm finally ready to make my decision. So, who truly deserves the MVP? Is it the guy that put up insane stats, carried his team all year, but still just fell short and missed the playoffs? Is it the guy who didn't have the most impressive numbers, but probably had the worst team and led them to the best record of these 3 candidates? Or is it the guy with the best stats, who's on a good offense, who's just thriving in it, and has won his division, and has beaten everyone head-to-head? Well, I'm glad you waited all this time, because the guy who truly deserves the MVP is none other than Josh Allen. You know, to me, you look at the MVP award, it's not just about stats, it's not just about record, it's about who is the most valuable player to their team. The problem with Joe Burrow was his team just couldn't get over the hump and get in the playoffs. I truly think if they won 2 more games, went 11-6, got a 5 seed or whatever, I think Burrow would have won the MVP. But I thought Joe Burrow fell just a little bit short. He had a couple key turnovers in some of their losses, including against the Chiefs. He had a late fumble that got returned for 6 that kind of costed them the game. I think he just fell a little short, and it's so tough to say. He had an insane year. As for Lamar Jackson, I know Lamar Jackson beat Josh Allen head-to-head, and I know his stats are more impressive. But let's be honest here. If you take Lamar Jackson off of the Ravens, they are still a good team. And to be honest with you, I know it shouldn't hurt you that you're on a good team, but it does. It does, man. Josh Allen, his offense he's on this year is not good at all, and he's been able to get them to a top offense in the league. You could say it's unfair, but, you know, when you do more with less, you have to give it to that guy. It's so tough to not give it to Lamar Jackson. To be honest with you, I think that this race was so close, but what Josh Allen is doing is insane, and I truly think he deserves it this year. Let me know if you agree with me down below. To be honest, I expect like 40% of you to agree with me, 40% to disagree and think it's Lamar Jackson, and then 20% to disagree and think it's Joe Burrow. That's my predictions, but definitely like, comment, subscribe, please. Helps me a lot. Take care.